June 5, 1944. A group of French farmers huddle around a radio, listening intently to the London broadcast. They know the risk. If discovered, imprisonment, torture, or even execution awaits them. Yet, they listen, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Then, amidst a jumble of seemingly meaningless phrases, they hear it, a single line from a French poem. It is the signal they've been waiting for. A cheer erupts. The time has come. Grabbing their weapons, they prepare for battle. Tonight, the resistance will rise. For years before the historic Normandy landings, France had fallen under Nazi occupation. The French government, believing resistance to be futile against Germany's military might, signed an armistice that divided the nation. The North fell directly under Nazi control, while the South remained under the Vichy government, which in reality was little more than a puppet state, following Germany's every command. Yet, the moment German boots marched through Paris, resistance groups began to emerge. At first, they were small, scattered, and lacked coordination. But their purpose was clear. France must be freed. In the early days, the resistance focused on attacking German soldiers, but these efforts often led to severe reprisals. In response to these acts of defiance, Hitler ordered mass executions and the deportation of thousands of French Jews and communists. The message was brutal. Every act of resistance would be met with greater suffering. Realizing this, the movement shifted tactics. Instead of direct confrontations, the resistance sought to cripple Germany's war efforts by targeting railways and factories, disrupting the supply chains without provoking mass retaliation. The British saw potential in these resistance efforts. They began parachuting agents into France to organize networks, recruit trustworthy individuals, and connect with existing groups. One of the most crucial tools in this effort was radio communication. Since powerful transmitters were scarce, the British turned to Radio London, a French-language station designed to counter German propaganda. It became an invaluable tool for coordinating the resistance. Radio London broadcasts contained seemingly nonsensical phrases, secret messages meant for those in hiding. A resistance member would request a supply drop using a coded phrase like, "Pierre says hello." Then, instead of returning to a safe house for updates, they could simply listen from home. If Pierre says hello aired, they knew their supplies were coming. This system proved essential for the resistance, and on the eve of D-Day, it played a pivotal role in mobilizing fighters across France. One of the most influential figures in the Free French movement was Charles de Gaulle. A relatively unknown general at the time, de Gaulle refused to accept France's surrender. Fleeing to Britain, he used the BBC to broadcast messages urging his countrymen to resist. He called upon French soldiers who had escaped to Britain, imploring them to join him. Though only a fraction stayed, it was enough to form a foundation of the Free French forces. From exile, de Gaulle sought to unify the fragmented resistance and gain support from Britain and the United States, a task fraught with difficulty. While Winston Churchill acknowledged de Gaulle as the leader of the Free French resistance, he hesitated to recognize him as a legitimate ruler of France. De Gaulle's government in exile was self-proclaimed, and the Vichy government had sentenced him to death for treason. Meanwhile, U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt found de Gaulle arrogant and difficult to work with, complicating diplomatic relations. Yet, de Gaulle's unwavering determination ensured that France remained an active participant in the war rather than a defeated nation awaiting liberation. By 1942, de Gaulle's efforts began to bear fruit. He appointed leaders to oversee the resistance, forming a central command structure. British agents, though wary of de Gaulle, started coordinating with the Free French, sharing intelligence and supplying weapons. Together, they devised a strategy to sabotage German infrastructure in preparation for the Allied invasion. Railways, communication lines, and power stations were prime targets, ensuring that German forces would be disorganized when the time came. The resistance grew stronger as time passed. Over 100,000 fighters had armed themselves with British-supplied weapons, ready to strike when the signal came. Meanwhile, victories in North Africa demonstrated that a well-organized French force could still stand against Germany. In response, the Nazis tightened their grip on France, dissolving the illusion of Vichy's independence and taking direct control of the southern territories. This only fueled the resistance further. Two significant events bolstered recruitment: Germany's invasion of Russia and the introduction of forced labor drafts in France. The former rallied French communists against the Nazis, expanding the resistance network, while the latter drove young men to flee conscription by joining the underground movement. By 1944, the resistance was larger and more organized than ever before. On the night of June 5th, the long-awaited message came through the airwaves. The resistance sprang into action. Within a single day, they had sabotaged 577 railways, 30 major roads, and 32 communication hubs. German reinforcements, including crucial panzer divisions, were cut off from Normandy, buying the Allies critical time to establish their foothold on French soil. Ordinary citizens, inspired by the promise of liberation, joined the fight in droves. The resistance worked alongside Allied paratroopers, guiding them to key targets and dismantling Nazi control. Through years of struggle and sacrifice, the people of France had kept the flame of resistance alive. Charles de Gaulle's defiant words, once heard by only a few, now rang true across the nation. When he first spoke on the radio, he had asked, "Has the last word been said? Must hope disappear? Is defeat final?" On that fateful night in June 1944, the answer resounded across France: no,